particularly from historically black colleges in the South, and we've continued to have a long relationship with them. We've had a lot of very successful alums.
Then, see, Dr. Patty, he retired and died, and so we had to get a new dean, and Art Daniels came here. He was at Ohio State. We were still in Alpha Hall, and John Enright was still associate dean, assistant dean. So what happened was that they built the HPER building. And of course, part of the athletic department was still in the Wildermuth field house.
The athletic department was on one side, and the physical education department that taught service courses was on the other side of the gym.
Wildermuth was the old original basketball. Played basketball in there.
Well, Wildermuth Center was just a field house, and it had a dirt floor on it, and they put the basketball floor on it and played basketball on it. So what they had to do, they put the flooring in there. The kids used to run laps around inside. You used to probably have seen them. Mm-hmm. Well, they used to run on dirt, and so they paved it. And they also made that floor a little more permanent. Mm-hmm. You see, but see, at the time we first went over there, they were still playing basketball there. They were having track in there. So at the end of the season, they took the floor up and stored it someplace.
The student union had just been built, but the School of HPER was just being built. There was where the right, from here to the right, they had a gymnasium, but that's all they had.
The new facility was built in 1961, which made all the difference in the world. And now we had space of our own.
It was in January of '61 when what we call now the new addition, which isn't so new anymore, was added on to Wildermuth Fieldhouse. And as a graduate assistant at that time, I helped pack files for our faculty to move into the building.
From Alpha Hall?
From Alpha Hall, yes. My first semester was at Alpha Hall.
That was a tremendous change. We went in from a very crowded little old place, and we had there was a lot of charisma, there was a lot of family. We painted the buildings. Everybody knew each other, into a bigger building, and it changed the character of our departments. We were big, we were expanded. We had fabulous facilities comparison. Mm-hmm. And so it changed a lot. It changed a lot of the rapport, the family liking. Although we had some of it, it really made a difference.
Dr. Epley, of course, who was the first chair, was a very homey individual, down to earth, and Dr. Carlson, of course, and Ruth were just super people to visit with, and Bob Tully, and some of these names you probably don't even know, but they were, and they invited the graduate and undergraduate kids out to their homes, and it was a very collegial type of thing, absolutely.
I think the relationship changed, but not necessarily good or bad. I wouldn't put a value on it. I think as more new faculty members came in, and the larger you get, the harder that family feeling is to achieve. But the continuing interest in students, I think, is still there.
That's where Dean Daniels was a good man. He said, this is what it's going to be, and this is what we're going to do. So I remember he brought Anita Aldrich. Anita came from Kansas City. I'd known her back when she was head of the physical ed for the whole Kansas City area. And so Dean Daniels asked me who I knew, and I told her. So he called her in, and she talked her into coming over here. Well, when she came over, of course, she was working with both men and women.
And I was thinking all the time, look at all the men that are getting college educations from scholarships, and that's wonderful, they should. But we have women out there that they too are talented in athletics, and they deserve the same right. If you were going to really develop perfection or a superior playing, you had to have coaches and you had to have examples of teams, and you had to have officials, and you had to have money. Well, in the meantime, other schools were thinking the same kind of thing.
With the growth of the interest in fitness in the country, and then the growth of the interest in women's athletics in the country, which came in the late 60s and early 70s, that probably was the single most influential factor in changing programs.
And so they appointed me acting chairman of men's physical education from 73 to 77, and at that time they merged, and Anita Aldrich became the chairman of the merged department, the entire department.
One of the first things I did as dean was to get involved in the merging of those two departments into one. And they were ready, and it went very smoothly.
Dean Mobley called me, and he said, Anita, you said once that about athletics. He said, I've heard it many times from many people what you said about men and women being together. And he said, I see all the men were upstairs over Wildermuth, and all the women were downstairs. And he said, I want you to put the two together. That was one of the most difficult things I did.
There was absolutely no problem. You know, if certainly not on the men's side. You know, the dean and others had prepared the entire faculty, men and women, pretty well for it. And Anita Aldrich was a very well-known, highly recognized, very competent person. Had been the president of the National Association for HPER.
I did